Good evening and welcome tonight to Design to Thrive. What a beautiful day it's been. It's been lovely here in the UK, and we thank God and we appreciate it for the gift of life, for the gift of time for you to join us and tune into this broadcast. So I'm super excited that you are here and I'm here, and we've got an incredible time ahead of us tonight. We are talking excel and thrive through a crisis, and today is part 5, where we are talking about breaking traditions, breaking habits, building new habits that are useful, and building resilience. So now, if you haven't done so, please like, tag, and share this broadcast. Let everybody know that we are here and we are in for a good time tonight. So thank you so much. I want to appreciate you for joining us. And Design to Thrive always has good stuff, such great stuff. Even for me, I'm always refreshed when I've come from the broadcast and I reflect on what we're talking about. So I'm super excited because I see transformation, I hear it, I feel it, and I'm super excited. As you can see, my energy, I'm all pumped because I know this is a time for transformation. So if you've taken your time to tune in, I want to appreciate you and say thank you for taking your time to be part of Design to Thrive and this broadcast, Excel and Thrive Through a Crisis, where we're talking about breaking traditions and building resilience. So if you're new, we welcome you. So please like, subscribe, share, and tag people to come. And our usual viewers, oh my goodness, what can we say? We appreciate you and thank you so much for your partnership. And so I am Fungi Samushonga, and I'm a certified international professional coach. I'm a certified practitioner of neuroscience, neuro-linguistic programming, timeline coaching. I'm a member of the Association for Professional Coaching, the European Commission for NLP, the International Federation for NLP. I specialize in business coaching, executive coaching, leadership, mindset coaching, life coaching, 7-figure success coaching, and I do all sorts of other coaching as well, from relationship, spiritual coaching. And that's my passion. I love to see people step into their God-given destiny. So besides being a coach, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a pastor, I'm a health practitioner, and I'm a mentor to many. I'm a published author as well. I'm a global speaker. I love to pray and intercede. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I love to cook. And so this is what I'm offering so that people can pivot and thrive. So to access my services, coaching, mentorship programs, or any other events that we might have, or to just invest in yourself or in a quality support coaching that is coming from me, facilitating you to get the results that you need and deserve, for mentorship, so that we can show you the ropes, how you can pivot, how you can thrive, how you can be successful, to be part of a tribe, a group of impact-driven people, influencers with same desire, hopes, and dream. Please do visit my website, www.fungaisamushonga.com. And you can see all sorts of things that we are doing, why you need to coach with Fungi, what we offer you, and a whole lot of different courses are right there. But just book your clarity call, and then I can break it down and bring it for you. So from business, executive, spiritual, life, mindset, and a whole lot of other things we do so. And why Design to Thrive? This is our coaching program where we believe everybody has an infinite ability to grow, to achieve, to aspire, and become. And our motto here is to become, to thrive, and to overflow. And Design to Thrive. And my purpose and passion is to ignite purpose, to release potential, awaken passion and dreams, and impart destiny. And so that's our core, that's our heartbeat, that's our mission, that's our focus, and those are some of our values as well, where we are transforming ordinary people to leaders and leaders into change agents, where we are not just setting goals, but we are setting identity, going far beyond just practical tools, but where we are bringing a new perspective, a new paradigm, a mindset shift, and then understanding what it means to walk into your destiny, to walk and live purposefully to thrive in every dimension of your life, from your personal relationship, from your health, from your wealth, from your career and family, all sorts of things, right? So the reason we bring this, we believe that for so long, many have been held back by a whole lot of things. But this is the time to break agreement with fear, failure, complacency, stagnation, and all things contrary to purpose and our destiny, so that we can become the people that we were designed to be and embrace everything, the purpose that has already been inbuilt, the promises that have been laid, and the destiny that has already been laid for us. So as we're doing this, we are preparing you, not just teaching you for now, but also preparing you for what's coming ahead. And now, right now, as we set that identity, we begin to walk in the reward of that success. And then, so what we are saying is, get ready. The transformation is here. The outpouring is definitely here. And so definitely this is the time to advance to the next level. So Design to Thrive is here. But part of my coaching, we are starting a Supercharged 2021, and we are kicking off on Thursday, the 29th of April. If you haven't already done so, I'll talk about it at the end. Please do sign up. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a phenomenal 9-month journey. The first 6 months is going to be more theory. Yes, we'll do some practical exercises, but the last 90 days, you will be birthing your dream, manifesting it into reality. And I'll be working with you one-to-one and making sure that 90-day plan comes to fruition. So the first 6 months, it's a whole lot of teaching, a whole lot of practice, a whole lot of thinking, ideation. But the last 90 days, oh, boom, we are bringing it into fruition. By the end of 2021, you should hold something and show something for what you've learned through our products and services. Now, as we started this series, we asked the question, is your vision of becoming just an empty hope? And today I asked, are you caving in? Or do you feel like you can continue and conquer? So this is why we're here, to help you make a game plan, and so you can execute on it. The question is not whether you will survive the crisis, but rather, how do you pivot? How do you excel, thrive, and become stronger coming out of it? And I've often said the linchpin is not to operate in a crisis mode, but rather implement meaningful steps, game plans, strategies that challenge preconceived notions, and so that we can step and think outside of our comfort zone, our boundaries, and we just excel, and then we thrive, minimizing any negative impact and disruption to our lives. We are not dismissing that we can hit rock bottom. We are not dismissing challenging times. That's exactly why we have the program that we are talking about today, Breaking Traditions and Building Resilience. Because you build resilience because you need to overcome something. You have hit rock bottom, you have faced a challenge, but to be able to bounce back and still continue and learn the lessons from that. So we are not denying that challenges will come, but we are just giving you the ropes. How then do you face those challenges? How do you pivot? How do you keep going? Now, as we started this, I'm not going to break down on what we've done. Like I said, this is part 5. If you've missed any of those 4 previous sessions, please do get to Millennium Harvest on Facebook, on YouTube, and do catch up on that. I'll just briefly say what we talked about, right? We talked about what a crisis is, right? What a crisis is, and we said it's a situation that is beyond your control, right? We also talked about the impacts of the crisis, that it demands new thinking, creates new solutions, initiates new concepts, renews vision, and it cancels experience. And we talked about both the positive and the negative impacts of that. We also talked about how you can then overcome crisis. We gave you those nuggets and everything else. And in part 2, we talked about excelling through a crisis. And then we talked about the keys to overcoming the struggle and the crisis. And we said no one is immune to crisis, but the management of it is very, very fundamental. Right, and we gave you some keys, and then we defined what management was, and we talked about change, how important it was, and expecting change. We also talked about transforming our experiencing, retooling, rebuilding, and reskilling. And then part 3, we talked about expecting change, transforming, experiencing, and managing our resources well. We also talked about determining what you need, as we talked about the laws of success. And then part 4, we talked about raising your faith. And we said your faith is only as strong as the test it survives. And so now we are coming on to part 5 today, where we are talking about breaking traditions, building resilience. Okay. And so why are we talking about this? Because we are in a series of talking about overcoming crisis, excelling through a crisis, not crushing through a crisis, but we are growing, we are excelling, we are pivoting through a crisis. Right. And there's a whole lot of opportunities that a crisis brings. Like I said, it cancels tradition, it demands new skills, renews vision. So there's a whole lot of positive stuff. There is the negative side, but we are saying we're not going to dwell on the negative side, but we want to look at the positive side so we can excel, so that we are coming through, and not just coming through, but we are growing through, we are excelling through it. Okay, so we are talking about breaking tradition. Now, traditions are things that we've done sometimes without even thinking, the habits that we've learned from our families, from school, from surroundings, from culture, from community. And these are things and habits that form a culture, that form a pattern or a way of life, and that we've always done. And sometimes perhaps we've never questioned why we've done things a certain way. But certainly when we are faced with a crisis, it's time to rethink. It's time to bring the critical thinking on and rethink, re-strategize. And how do we do that? It starts by breaking those traditions, including our own habits, so that we can excel. So that's why I said it's time to break away from fear, complacency, stagnation, and things like that. Now, right now, the culture that we have, or the tradition that we have right now, that seems to have held on for the past year till now, is stagnation. Now, I can't say that it's a culture, but it's a way of life that has happened. There's stagnation. It's cyclical, of course. It will end. It's not permanent. But a whole lot of things have come to a halt. Businesses went bust. People lost their jobs. People lost money. Things were not just moving, and we were all shielding, and now we are just coming out. So things were stagnant in a way. But I want to say, don't hide behind that stagnation and give excuse and hide behind COVID-19. And I know many people have been stagnant even before COVID-19, and they're now just using COVID-19 as a cover. But what we're saying here is Designed to Thrive. We are not here to condemn anybody, but we're just saying, stop. Think what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and how did it start? Is it helping you to grow? Is it helping you to get to your next level? Is it helping you to achieve your purpose? Is it helping you to step up and level up? Okay, and so we have to look at traditions. And then I'll talk about building resilience. So we said earlier on, crisis breaks tradition. Now, we've always known how to do school. We live in the morning, we go to school, we get a teacher in front, either with an electronic board now, or with a duster and a chalk, and they're writing and they're teaching from the front of the class, and it's a personal interaction, and we're with friends. But for the past year, pretty much, we had the exams cancelled, and there was no exams. It wasn't even virtual exams. Exams were cancelled, and school had to pivot. And it was virtual school pretty much for much of it. And then in September, kids went back, but then we had another cycle, and then we came back into virtual school. So that was a tradition that was broken. Why? It had to be broken so that kids could continue with their process of learning. Yes, it was disruptive to their normal way of doing things, but there had to be a new way so that kids could continue with their learning process. So a tradition had to be broken there. So the concept I'm talking about are not, whoa, what's she talking about? There are things that we've already done. Teams even from work, have had to meet virtually. We are now meeting virtual Bible study, whereas we used to come and sit round in the same room and talk in person, but now it's virtual. We're having virtual coffee mornings, whereas before we used to come and sit and talk. And now, the world, the globe could be your office. You could be anywhere and trading anywhere else in the world. So traditions have had to be broken because crisis breaks tradition. And so that's how, one of the ways that we can learn how to manage crisis. So now, talking about tradition, I say traditions are formed socially, culturally, from the community, from faith, from teaching, from interactions with other people, and things like that, right? But they are also an enemy of change, because people who hold on to tradition, we've always done things this way, we have always thought this way. Now, if we don't evolve, we don't change. If we don't evolve, we don't grow. So traditions, while they are good, they can be a limitation to your pivoting, to your growing through a crisis. So this is why we say crisis comes and breaks traditions. It demands you to think differently. It demands you to act differently. It demands you to renew your vision. So tradition itself can be an enemy and is an enemy of change. And so tradition can keep us stuck in the past, status quo, in the past success, where we are reactionaries looking back. But no, we are saying we want to be progressive people, and progressive people change their tradition. They might not change their values, they will remain with their values, but certain way of doing things has to be changed so that you grow. Now all things are digital. It never used to be that way. When I grew up, and I told my kids that we didn't have the internet way back in the 80s, shall I say. All right. And it's not every home that had a PC in the 90s, right? So it's either was at school, or you had to go to an internet cafe and to get your internet bit and things like that. But now, for me to get my email, I just have to be holding my phone. It never used to be like that. And mobile phones were not that common, or they were not even there when I grew up. Most of the time, really, up until I was actually in my late teens, right? And even so, when people started having them, it was only the few people that had them. So we didn't have that luxury of checking our messages constantly. We had to use the diary. Literally, we had the paper diary, and you'd write your telephone numbers for people, and you'd either memorize them, and you'd go to a payphone and put coins and make your call. But that tradition had to go. And when I tell my kids, they laugh. How did you manage? I said, yes. And I had to, because everybody didn't have a mobile, when we had to go and meet up with our friends, the point of meeting was very, very important. The time of meeting was very, very important, because then people would wait for you forever, and they had no way of knowing, have you left home? Are you on your way? Or what's happening? So punctuality was very important. Now people say, oh, I'm running late, 10 minutes. And people have got that liberty to do things, but that's a tradition that's already changed. So that's the point with where I'm coming through. We are changing so that we are progressing. Okay. And that's why we referred to change earlier on. I'm just going to briefly touch on change today, so that we can really understand fully why we need to change tradition. Now, change is very good. Winston Churchill says to change is to improve, and to change often is to perfect. So change is very necessary for our evolving, for our growth, for our development. So we've got to evolve. So you would find that in every field of life, change is key, is fundamental. It's one of the most vital thing, and it's also a constant. So it's an act that we are changing. It could be a process through which we are changing from one dimension to another, one level to another, one understanding to another, and we are becoming different. And that could be through transitioning, which is the process of changing from one situation, one form, one state to another. Or it could be conversion, where it's the process of changing from one system, one method or use to another, where we are adjusting, where we are adapting, where we are evolving, where we are transforming, where we are transitioning, where we are evolving, and a process of conversion. That's where we talk about agility, right? That will come in handy again without talking about building resistance. But now I want you to understand exactly why I'm saying we should break traditions. Now I'll give you an example. Now, if you read in the Bible, I'll give you a good example, and I chose this because it spoke a lot to me. When you read in the book of Judges, chapter 15, verses 13 to 19, I won't necessarily read, but I'll tell you what story it was. It was a story when Samson, the strong, mighty Samson, he was bound, and the Philistines had come. He had, shattered, they provoked him, and then he provoked them back, and then, he set alight their grain, and then so he was hiding in a cave. But where he was, the Philistines pursued him, and now the people that were in that land, they were afraid. They thought, oh my goodness, these Philistines are so powerful. So they went and made a deal. Said, we are going to take you and hand you over. Samson, we're going to take you and hand you over back to the Philistines, but we're not going to kill you. That's perfectly fine. And so as they bound him, the Bible says that he was bound with 2 ropes and he was led up from the rock. But as he approached the place called Lehi, the Philistines came shouting, and suddenly upon Samson, something happened. In that time where he was bound, there was 1,000 people that were around him, more than 1,000 men that had already waged war against him. He was bound, he was chained, his legs, his arms were all chained. So he was bound. He was literally a prisoner being carried away. 1,000 men were against him. But suddenly, in that moment, something happened. The Bible says the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. So that is anointing. So also, what I'm trying to say is things like that. He had the anointing come upon him. But also we can have a moment a moment of brilliance, in that moment where we are tied down, where we think, oh, yeah, this is what I can do, so I can pivot. So, and it says the ropes in his arms, they became charred like flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. And, and what he says is he looked for something, a weapon that he could use. 1 man against 1,000+ men. He looked for something that he could use, and he found a jawbone of a donkey. He grabbed it and he struck down 1,000 men. And when he had killed 1,000 people with no gun, with no machinery or weapons of mass destruction, but with a jawbone and an inspiration, he managed to strike 1,000 men down. So in that pivotal moment, he got a pivotal strategy. This is where why we should change our habits. If we continue with our same habits, if we continue with our same strategies, we are not going to make it to pivot. We're not going to make it out. But when we think outside the box, just like he did, he looked, what can I use? He found a jawbone and he used that as his weapon. Now, it could have taken those men by surprise, but he had inspiration. He was convinced that he could conquer, and he went out to do it. That's why I asked the question, are you still able to carry on and conquer? Continue and conquer, or you feel like you want to cave in? Now, here was a man who didn't think to cave in. I'm surrounded by 1,000 men. Of course, the battle is lost. He didn't think that way, but he thought of it in this way. If I could find something that I could use, I can strike them down. So he thought in a victorious mindset. He thought in a conquering mindset, and he was ready to do what it took to overcome. He could have failed, but he was ready to do what it took. So are you ready to do what it takes? Sometimes we don't pivot, we don't thrive because we think, oh, this is the lost battle. But he didn't think it was a lost battle. He thought, you know what, I'm going to find and I'm going to do what it takes. And he found a jawbone of a donkey, and he struck 1,000 men down. And when he had done that, he says, with a donkey's bone, I've made donkeys of them. So can we make donkeys out of this crisis? Oh, come on, somebody. Let's make donkeys out of this crisis. And it says, with a donkey's bone, with a donkey's jawbone, I've made donkeys out of them. And with a donkey's jawbone, I've killed 1,000 men. And when he had finished, he threw away the jawbone. And the place was called Ramath Lehi. Now, what I want to say is when Samson had conquered with his jawbone, can you see he was not a man of tradition? If you were, perhaps you and I, we could have said, this is my jawbone of victory. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to refer to it. I'm going to use it again. But he threw it away because he's a man who's not dependent on just experience or tools or resources, but he's a man who thinks in the moment progressively. So he knew that the battle for the jawbone is over and done with. Yes, we've conquered, but you know what? The jawbone is not coming along. I'm pivoting ahead and the jawbone is staying behind. But the problem is sometimes when we are reactionaries, we are people that are looking back and thinking, I used the jawbone before, and everything you're going to try and use your jawbone, and it's not going to open every door that's ahead of you. It's not going to help you to thrive, and you get frustrated. It worked before. Why is it not working now? Because we are breaking traditions. If you are going to excel and thrive, you are not person bound by tradition, but you are somebody who's ready to take new concepts, to take new vision, to take new milestones, and to take it on and do what it takes. Now, he threw away the jawbone. And now, soon after, he's faced with a challenge. And he's thirsty. And he doesn't have water to drink. And he begins to cry out. He says, I don't want to die in the hands of these very people. And the Bible says, the Lord opened up a hollow place. Can you see? He overcame with the jawbone. And now when he needed water, he didn't use the jawbone to dig a well. He could have easily done that. But no, he knew that the jawbone would not suffice. The jawbone would not stand the test or would not be equal to the emergency. So he let it go. And he trusts in a higher power. Last time we talked about raising our faith. That's exactly what he did. And when he was faced with the next challenge, he prayed to God and he got the miracle. So Samson had that donkey's bone, surrounded and encompassed by those great people, a great army in their thousands. All he did, he had to look around. He had to look beyond where he was. And the Bible says he saw. Now, when you begin to look around, you begin to see. But if you don't look, you don't see. Why? Because if you tell yourself this is a lost battle, your mind is shut, your eyes are shut. Even if there's an opportunity that is presented right before you, you miss it. So look around and you will find and you will see. And he saw the jawbone and he shook off the sand and he used it to fight. He killed 1,000 men with that jawbone. What happened there? The key was he looked outside the box. He thought outside the box. Now, he didn't think, has a jawbone be used? No. He looked and he saw. He took what he had and he used what he had. So sometimes we are looking around and we are seeing and we're thinking, this has never been done before. Who says it has to be done before? You might be the first person to do it. Yes, there's first person on the moon. There's first person to make an electric car, and things like that. There's always a first time for everything. So when you look around and you begin to see, don't question and say, this has never been done before. Take it. It could be your jawbone that's going to take down the crisis and make donkeys out of the crisis. So he thought outside the box. And then we say, he also did not rely on experience. That I've done this before. I'm striking down 1,000 men with a jawbone. No, but he had to cancel the previous experience. We said crisis cancels experience. This is exactly what he did. He needed to retool. He needed to rethink. He needed to reskill. Right there, he retooled with that. He rethought. He thought outside of the box. Right? He did not rely on experience or equipment. He could have said, this is a dead donkey and this is a dead, dry bone. There is nothing I can do with it. But no, he didn't rely. He didn't say, I'm waiting for the machine gun to come. No, he used what he had. So don't rely on your experience. Don't rely on the equipment. Think outside the box. live outside the box. In fact, everybody tonight, we are taking the box and we are putting it out there, and we are stepping far away from it because we don't belong to a box. We don't belong to any limitation. The moment we confine ourselves to tradition, to limitations, to a box, we are putting a limit to what we can achieve because we can't see beyond that. We can't act beyond that, right? So he came out of the box. So already everybody put the box there, right? Don't rely on your past experience or what you've heard or traditions or equipment. No, he thought outside of the box. He acted outside of the box, and he won outside of the box. Use what's at your disposal, just like he did. He used what was at his disposal, what he had. So with that revelation, with that inspiration, with what he saw, with that conviction, he pivoted and he won. So he was enabled to do those exploits and conquer a vast army. Yeah. And still, he did not keep the jawbone. When you keep the jawbone, you are keeping a tradition that can stop you from pivoting on your next crisis, right? So yes, we can celebrate the moments with the jawbone, but the jawbone is not for keeps. The jawbone is for the shelf, and you move ahead and you can use something that's at your disposal. So he threw it away, and so he evolved. So that's how we advance. That's how we change. That's how we grow. Let go of tradition, past victories, so that we are able to conquer our tomorrow. You've got to change. You've got to adjust. You've got to adapt. You've got to ride and ride on or ride ahead. I always say, I don't want to ride on the season. I want to ride ahead of the season. So that's when you retool, you relearn, you reskill, and not permanently with those skills. It's for a season. We said we don't bring a permanent solution to temporary seasons. Even this crisis is temporary. So you find a pivotal moment and find pivotal strategies for a season. And those pivotal strategies are your jawbone. You use them, you leave them, and you progress. Okay? Or you can build on them if they're still part or necessary of your growth. Okay? So you've got to know that. Okay? There's certain things that you can do, and you can pivot and thrive, right? So now, because of that adjustment, of that agility, and of that necessity to change, to face it as it comes, doing what it takes, that's where resilience comes in. And so I'm going to share briefly on 7 points that are good for us, or resilient people have, or and things like that. But before I do that, let me just break it down and define what resilience is. Now, it is a psychological term that is the capacity to resist, to absorb, to recover after a trauma or a crisis, right? So that capacity to resist. Now, to resist is by applying equal or greater force. Now, you don't resist something by succumbing to it. You resist, it means that you are bringing all you got, or to equal the emergency or greater than the emergency. That's resisting. Absorbing. Now, this is why I'm saying we are not denying. Yes, we could face the effects and the impact of the crisis, but only for us to be able to learn, rebounds, and get ahead, and then recover. So you resist, you absorb, you recover after that traumatic event or a crisis that you face. Or we could say it's the ability to successfully adapt to adversity or change, right? So when you're faced with change, when you're faced with adversity, the ability for you to be agile, the agility that you have, the ability to adapt to that adversity, the challenge, the crisis, or the change. In other words, you are advancing despite the adversity. So you are keeping on going. We are not stopping. We are not caving in. Yes, we are resisting it. Yes, we might absorb it, but we are recovering and we are carrying on. We are advancing despite the adversity. Now, from a community's perspective, it's not merely a personal or individual effort to bounce back. now after a tragic situation. This is why now, together as a nation, we got to bounce back. We are, for those that are shopping, we're encouraging them. You know what? We need the GDP to bounce back. So please do go and spend a little, and it helps everything. It's the whole cycle, isn't it? The people that are eating out in restaurants, the people that are buying in shops, the people that are working here and there. We are helping everything else to bounce back. So it's not just one person doing it, but together we are helping each other to bounce back. So you can do that as a resilient community, a resilient individual. But one thing I know, together we all have a duty to bounce back, to rise, and to emerge. So resilience then is best understood in the context of the virtue of fortitude. Okay? The virtue of fortitude. That is a gift that gives us courage, strength, and enables us to overcome. Now, remember, when we are resisting, we are applying equal or greater force. And now, fortitude, now we've got courage, I've got strength, and that it enables me to face whatever is coming. I don't deny it. Yes, it's coming, but I am able to overcome that fear. Now, so then we find that resilience is necessary to overcome all sorts of challenges, including divisions that can be amongst us without necessarily losing our personal identities, right? So we don't want to merely survive the crisis or any future one that comes our way, but we want to thrive and be transformed into men, women who are capable of making and being the difference. People that are able to pivot and thrive. People that are agile, that are able to adapt, to adjust, and keep going, that are advancing despite the adversity. Now, whether you can be said to be resilient or not, it does not rely on any particular test. We can't say, okay, let's take this test, you are resilient. But it is dependent on the way your life unfolds. Now, some people could be very lucky and never experience any sort of diversity. So they might not understand, or they might not realize how resilient they are. So you won't know how resilient you are unless you actually face a challenge. Now, however, coming out of the pandemic and the global crisis, we all know too well that your resilience can be tested on a daily basis. For some, it was a daily challenge to go through the day emotionally, financially, physically, or in every dimension, relationally, because people were restricted from encountering or being with other people physically. It had to be virtual. So that was tested daily. So the challenges we face will ensure that our resilience or lack thereof, that's how we know how resilient we are, and that's how it will be tested. Now, like I asked at the beginning, do you feel like caving in, or are you able to continue and conquer? Why have I asked the question? Now that I've told you and defined what resilience is, so as you're facing the daily challenges, do you feel like, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel? Or are you able to continue and conquer? And you know what? The question is, a whole lot of people are facing that challenge. The other day, I woke up to sad news. Such a young, thriving lady had committed suicide. And it saddened me because I thought she had been coping. But only had I known, I would have done something. So we are living in a virtual world where everything is nice, and people are posting nice posts on Facebook. And you might be thinking, am I the only one who's feeling rubbish? Am I the only one who's under the weather? Am I the only one who's caving in? We got to talk about this. And this is a real topic that we're going to talk about: mental health and well-being, emotional intelligence, on another topic. But I just wanted to acknowledge it today. Perhaps you feel like that way. Please do message me, and I can talk to you, support you. I can also refer you on, and we can help you thrive. Okay? And many people in the world are resilient, However, the levels of resilience can dip when put under pressure. Now, you could have said, oh, we are doing virtual school, it's not physical school, and there's people cope. But then when you say we're not meeting people, it's just virtual contact, some people, it dips right there. right? So, but luckily, resilience now is a set of skills that can be learned, and it also can be developed. This is why we are talking about it. As we are breaking traditions, as we are breaking out of the crisis, as we are pivoting ahead, we are building resilience. Now that we've learned what resilience is, we want to put it into practice. What exactly and how is that exactly can I build or learn these skills? It means that we can build our resilience from one level to another, so that even in the most of challenging circumstances, we can deal with the stress and we can recover quickly. Remember, I said resist, absorb, recover. So it's not just about resisting and absorbing, it's also about the recovery. Okay? So a great deal has of research has taken place around the topic of resilience, and right now is one of the key things that we need. And many studies have identified that resilient people demonstrate certain skills, and I'll just share about that today. And so let's just look at it. So would be um, number one would be resilient people are autonomous. Now, they've internalized center of control. People who are resilient believe that they themselves, not the circumstances, affect their achievements. So they believe it's not the circumstances, but uh, but it's they themselves, that affect their achievements. They know that they are orchestrators of their own fate. They are autonomous people and understand, that they cannot change others. Now, that's one thing. Right now, a big frustration on this is a whole lot of people want to change other people, but you got to know that you cannot change other people or their behaviors, but only their response to that behavior. And again, autonomous people are interconnected. They are aware of their way of thinking, their senses, their emotions, and needs. Now, I don't want to rush on this point, because it's one thing to know of senses, emotions, but to be aware of your own thinking, what you are thinking, why you are thinking that, your senses, your emotions, what you are feeling, and why you are feeling that, your needs, why you need that, right? And we can make ourselves more or less vulnerable by how we think and what we think about the things, and things like that. So we can be taught the cognitive skills of regulating emotional response and having a new mindset that lasts over time. This is why I talked about breaking tradition. We are now changing and shifting the paradigm. We're changing and shifting the mindset, a mindset that lasts over time. So we can ask one person or two people the same question. Do you see an event or a crisis as traumatic, or do you see it as an opportunity to learn and grow? Now, you could get two responses. One can say, well, it was traumatic for me. And yes, we don't deny that it was. And the other person can say, yes, it was traumatic. You know what? But I learned a whole lot of things. It was an opportunity for me to learn and grow. So now, all of that, those are cognitive skills that we can learn and we can apply, and help us to regulate our emotional response. And it also helps us in shifting our mindset, and it will help us to grow through the crisis. Now, events, that are, we know that are traumatic and things like that. Those are tragic events, isn't it? Right? But they are not traumatic until we experience them as traumatic. Now, two people could go through the same experience, and one person can say, well, yes, it was, but it wasn't traumatic for me. And somebody else would come back and is really traumatized by that experience, because in their experience it was traumatic. Now, this is why you get two soldiers coming from war. One suffers post-traumatic stress disorder and the other doesn't. Is because though they experienced the same event, one experienced it as traumatic, and the other one, yes, experienced it as tragic, but it was not necessarily traumatic for them. It was a challenge. And so that's why we're talking about breaking traditions, trying to reskill, retool, and be taught cognitive skills so that we can regulate our emotional response, even though we experience it as traumatic. But then we are able to build a new emotion, a new memory, a new mindset, and that will help override that. It's a whole lot of thing, and I can talk about it in depth on another topic. Actually, there was a Harvard study on this, reality over versus imagination. What they did is they took pianists and they gave them the piano songs to play, and they actually played the songs, and at the same time they did a scan of their head, of their brain, and they captured what parts of the brain were active or what can I say, activated or responded to that stimuli or to what they were doing. And then they took the same people on a different day and they said, sit there, imagine yourself playing that piece of music that you played the other day. And as the people were imagining that same experience, they scanned the brain. And you know what? The images came identical. They came out identical. The other one was actually a real experience. The other one was an imagination of the real experience, but it still stimulated the same part of the brain. So what am I saying? Even though you've experienced a traumatic event, but you can override that with those cognitive skills that can override the reality of the situation, the real thing. But that is a topic for another day. We can talk about that. So the Harvard study is actually out there. You can do your due diligence and look out. It's there. And when I looked at it, I said, wow, the brain is a powerful machine. We can control it. We can use it to our gain, but we must use it as our tool and our asset, right? But we can take control of that experience, even the subconscious mind, because 95% of our actions, they stem from the subconscious mind, and the strategies and stuff 5%. So it means that the subconscious mind, your paradigm, your mindset controls majority of your actions, right? This is why even in the Bible, Paul says, I know what I want to do, but I find myself doing the things that I don't want to do. What has happened? The paradigm, the subconscious mind has taken over. So he finds himself doing the things that he doesn't want to do. This is why when you set New Year's resolution, you set a goal, I want to do this, you find yourself back. What has happened? The subconscious mind, the paradigm, right, hasn't shifted. And this is why I believe, and this is why I say at Design to Thrive, we are not just setting goals. Goals are good, but we are setting the identity. When we set the identity, we are speaking into the core, the subconscious mind, the paradigm, we are shifting that. Then when we are setting goals, they can last because we not have done it superficially, but we've done it from the core. Okay? And we are building resistance. We are talking about this. So, events are not traumatic until we experience them as traumatic. And you can also revisit that part of the brain where you've experienced that trauma and you can rewrite it. You've got the power to do it. This is why we are talking about excelling and thriving through a crisis. This is not just shallow talk. This is deep stuff. And I believe people are being helped. And if you need help to do that, don't hesitate to contact me. Inbox me at Fungi Samushonga on my Facebook page, or come to www.fungisamushonga.com, and I'll be willing to help you and journey with you, right? Not just me. We have a team of success coaches, well qualified, that can help you to pivot and thrive. What we want, what we desire is for you not to just come out anyhow, but we want you to come out stronger and greater. right? So the thing is, we can create or exaggerate stresses, right? And we can do that very easily in our own minds. I just gave you that example of the Harvard brain study. So that's the danger of the human condition, or perhaps human tradition, right? So we can worry, we can ruminate, we can blow up minor event into an obsession or drive ourselves crazy about something. But it's all about how we frame things, how we understand that yes, it was terrible, it was painful, but I'm taking power, I'm taking control, and I'm not going to let that trauma rule my life or ruin my life. But I'm going to excel, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to thrive. Yes, that happened to me, but my cognitive skills are leveling up. I'm applying new skills, I'm learning certain things, and I'm overcoming that stress. But what is stress in the first place? Is the value we give an event. So, what value you give something is exactly the stress or the pain that you experience, right? So, you could have two people experiencing the same thing. One has got 200 pounds, another has got 200 pounds, and you find one of them saying, I haven't got money. But the other one is saying, yes, I got 200 pounds, I can do A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Is the value they've given to the equation. So now watch what value you are giving things, or even the stress that you've experienced. We are not denying it, but you've got the power to go back and take control so that you can pivot and thrive, so that you are not succumbing to that pressure, so that you're not caving in, but rather you are excelling and you are thriving. And to learn these skills, we need to identify where we can improve, where we can grow. Now, because of our time, I'm going to stop right there. I've only done one point on resilience. Next time, we'll come back to part 6. We'll explore everything on resilience, right? So tune in next week on Friday the 30th. We have a special edition of Designed to Thrive, where we have Hatne Samushonga, who's coming to join us. And I'm privileged that this awesome gentleman, distinguished gentleman, I'm privileged that he's also my husband. And Happiness is a scholar. Actually, he's part of the Harvard alumni. He's an author, he's an entrepreneur, he's an executive and business consultant, and he's a health practitioner. He's in senior management within the National Health Service. And he'll be coming on board and he'll be talking about some good stuff. And so please make it a date, Friday the 30th of April at 7 p.m. We have Hatne Samushonga as our guest. And we'll also invite you to our other sessions, such as on a Sunday, we have family worship and interactive worship. And this Sunday, we have the pleasure to have Pastor Paul Muzadi, our associate pastor, ministry. And so please come. He's a seasoned and anointed speaker, and he's going to come with the word of God, 11 a.m. UK time. So that's what we have. And like I said, Supercharge Accelerator program starting on the 29th of Thursday, 29th of April, kicking off at 7 p.m. And all registrants, this is strictly by registration. All registration is actually still open, and you can still sign up. And all registrants will be sent how we're going to be doing this. But you know what? We are going to level up, invest in ourselves, and it's for those people that are serious about creating health, wealth, abundance that they want, so that you can transform and live the life that you want inside and out. So that is all. And I'll also catch you on Tuesday, 7 p.m., where we'll be talking about the pursuit. That's on another program of Overflow, where we've been talking about great topics, inspirational, spiritual stuff. We talked about the passion on the Passion Week, the week before Easter. We talked about the greatest desire. We talked about the longing. And this Tuesday, this just past gone Tuesday, we talked about the pursuit. And the pursuit is going to be in 3-part session. So we had one this week, and the following subsequent 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about the pursuit. So thank you for tuning in. Keep growing, keep excelling, keep thriving, and be resilient. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed weekend. Now catch you up on another program.
Medicine, a leading medical tourism company. Veracity Global Medicine specialises in helping people from around the world access high-quality private medical care in the United Kingdom and India for all types of diagnostic tests, treatments and medical procedures through our world-class partner hospitals and medical centres. All our clients are sure to receive a consultation with a leading medical consultant or surgeon to plan their care before signing a care agreement with the hospital or medical centre. If you or your loved ones are in need of high quality medical tests, treatments or medical procedures that are either not available, not accessible or not prioritised in your home country, Veracity Global Medicine is your first and last stop. We understand that the thought and experience of travelling to a different country for medical care can be daunting. To support you on this, we provide accessory services which include airport pickups, accommodation in a fine apartment for you and all your loved ones accompanying you, and a chaperone service provided by a local medical chaperone to accompany you to your medical appointments. To start the pre-assessment process, simply visit our user-friendly website www.veracityglobalmedicine.com and select and complete the contract form for your desired country. A friendly agent will be in touch with you to guide you through the process, leading to your consultation with a leading medical practitioner. So, if you're in need of high quality private medical care in the UK and India, and if you are not from these countries, do not delay. Get in touch with us. Visit our website www.veracityglobalmedicine.com or call our global office on +44 1482 236 484 during office hours to complete a pre-assessment.